Let's talk about certificate of good standing. How do you get one this year? Let's talk about that. So here's the strategy I want you to think about. So when you think about certificate of good standing, and sometimes, by the way, it's called certificate of status, or sometimes also a certificate of existence. So those are the three words that you have. So this is basically a document that states that your company is legally registered with your state, right? So this public record is proof that you are authorized to do business there and that you follow all state requirements, like, let's say, submitting required documents and paying taxes and other fees. So it basically proves that you are a legit business. That's really important, because if you are going for a business loan, for instance, or business line of credit, or you want to engage into contracts, a certificate of good standing is showing that, hey, listen, you are basically are a legit business. This is really important. And so just that the name can vary depending on the state, the certificate can also look different. And so this is an important element to think about. And I'm just showing you on the screen here, actually, what the certificate looks like in Oregon, in the state of Oregon, versus in the state of California. So you have different looks, but basically it's the same thing that shows that you are legit. And a certificate of good standing verifies that a corporation or LLC was formed legally, has been properly maintained, and is still active. It should not be confused with the certificate of tax status, or let's say even tax compliance, which shows that an entity is up to date on all of its tax filings and payments. So this is an important element to think about. Now, one thing I want to say here is that when we think about a certificate of good standing, it has way more important, not just when it comes to business credit, but other stuff. Let's say you are trying to really build a relationship with vendors or suppliers, right? They might ask you to provide a certificate of good standing, because they want to make sure that they are dealing with a legit business. So anytime you have to prove that your business is legit, that your business is active, because it's not just being legit. I mean, you can have a legit business, but the business is dormant. The business is inactive. Like you created the business 10 years ago, but for the last 9 years, you haven't done anything. Stakeholders, partners, business partners want to make sure that they are dealing with an active business. They are dealing with a business that hasn't had any issue with the state, and that they are dealing with a business that is in good terms with the authorities. So let's talk about whether you need or not a certificate of good standing. Now, the thing is, while you're not required to have it to legally do business in your state, you may need one if you are going through any of these situations. We're going to put this on the screen so you have a clear idea if any scenario actually applies to your specific situation. So competing for a government contract, opening a business bank account, insuring your business, funding your business, wooing potential business partners, forming a contract with another company, registering to do business in another state, renewing certain business licenses and permits, selling your business, and setting up a system that will allow you to process credit or debit payments. So bottom line here is what? If you think about all those things, the bottom line here is that you have to always prove that your business is legit and active. That goes back to what I said a little earlier about the duality here. So you want to prove that your business is active and legit, right? So for instance, when we talk about funding your business, if you have to apply for a business line of credit, you have to actually apply for a business loan, you have to apply for a net 30 account. All of those scenarios actually call for you to prove that your business is active. And when we talk about you wooing potential business partners, let's say you have an LLC and you're trying to really attract another partner, a well-funded partner, then you got to really show the partner that your business, the business is still open, okay? And by the way, there are other areas where you might actually need a certificate of good standing. For instance, if you have to register to do business in a different state. So let's say you are in New York and you want to do business in Georgia, for instance, the Georgian authorities might actually ask you for a certificate of good standing, or if you have to contract with another company. Okay, that's an important element. Now, God forbid, if you have to deal with certain potential investors, the bar is even higher. Like the VC firms, the venture capitalists, they want more than making sure that your business has a certificate of good standing. Their due diligence goes way further. The depth and breadth of their due diligence is even crazier. So, long story short, you want to actually have, you want to maintain this certificate of good standing at all times. This is really important. Now let's talk about how you can get a letter of good standing from your state. By the way, letter of good standing, certificate of good standing, all this mean the same thing. So dealing with the government can be tedious at times, but it's pretty easy to get a letter of good standing. So in most cases, what happens here is that you can receive one within a few weeks and sometimes immediately, depending on your state. Okay, and so here's what to do. First of all, you want to see if your business entity is required to register with your state. So the thing is that you can only get a certificate of good standing if your business is registered with your state, right? Because the certificate is actually issued by your state authorities, not by yourself or by anybody else. No, it's only with your state. So you want to check your business entity below to see if you are required to register. Now, we're going to put this on the screen so you have a clear idea. So business entity, corporation, yes, you need to register. Business entity, LLC, yes, you need to register with your state, which means that a certificate of good standing is required. If you have a 3LP, LLLP, a limited liability, limited partnership, in terms of registration, it depends on the state. Some states might require you to register with the state. Others, no. What about ALP? Same thing. So it depends on the state. So LLP, limited liability partnership. And it's the same thing for limited partnership. So LP, so the registration requirements will depend on the state authorities. And what about partnership? Same thing. Same thing. You have the registration requirements vary by state. What about sole proprietorship? A sole proprietorship doesn't have to be registered with the state. By the way, an S corporation also you will need to register with your state, even though an S corporation is a fiscal construct, is a tax construct. It's not a legal construct. You actually have to form LLC or C corporation and then convert this into S corporation, which is something that happens at the IRS level. If you're not sure whether you can register with your state, contact your state business filing agency, okay? And you want to make sure your business satisfies the other requirements. So your company must also be in good standing if you want a certificate. That includes maintaining your appointed registered agent, who is the company's point of contact. So while good standing requirements vary by state, in general, they cover the following. You are current on all your taxes and fees, and you have filed all necessary documents, including annual reports. And so if your company is registered with the state, you can check its status online, usually with your state's business filing agency. And what you want to do next is you want to request a certificate from your state's business filing agency, and you can get a certificate of good standing from the business filing agency in your state. Not a problem at all. In many cases, this is your Secretary of State's office or one of its subdivisions. However, in some cases, you'll need to file. You need to find the equivalent agency that's responsible for filing entities and maintaining state records. So how do you get a certificate of good standing in your state? By the way, boss, if you have any question, because we have 50 states, we don't have time to actually cover all the 50 states. But if you have any question, please feel free to ask us in the comment section and we'll get back to you. Not a problem, okay? And I'll quickly go through some of the states here so you have a clear idea what I'm speaking about. So Alabama, for instance, you can obtain a certificate of existence from the Alabama Secretary of State online or via mail. And the fee is $28 for online request and $25 for mail request. In Alaska, you pay a $10 filing fee, and the certificate will be available online to print immediately. In Arizona, they charge you a $10 fee to obtain a good standing certificate, and normal processing takes up to 2 weeks, or you can opt to pay an additional $35 to have the certificate expedited. You have Arkansas. They charge you $25. In California, they charge you a $5 fee. By the way, if you need the link to the state agency, let us know. We'll let you know. We'll respond to you. Not a problem. Here, I'm just giving you a small list of places. And in Delaware, for instance, basically Delaware, they charge you a little more. They charge you like $50 for a short form certificate of status, or $175 for a long form certificate of good standing. And certificates are sent by first class mail. And in Idaho, for instance, they charge you $10. In Illinois, they charge you $25. In Indiana, they actually Indiana is really good because they created a portal called InBiz, where users can create a login to obtain a certificate of existence, and ordering one costs $30 by mail or $26 online, providing immediate access. So that's really fantastic. You also have Kansas, $15, Kentucky, $20, Maine, $30, Maryland, $20. By the way, again, as I said before, if you need specifics about your own state, please reach out to us, and we'll certainly be very happy. We're very happy to give you the link to the state agency and also how much you have to pay, everything that you need to know about your specific states. Okay. And what about Mississippi? Well, to obtain a certificate of good standing in Mississippi, you'll first need to create an account on the Secretary of State's website. From there, you can order the document and pay the $25 fee. Okay. And what about Montana? Well, as long as your business remains compliant, you can request a Montana certificate of existence from the Secretary of State, and online orders are $5 and processed immediately for quick access. So that's really fantastic. Moving on, you have actually here, you have Nebraska. And Nebraska, they're charging you $6.50. Nevada, they're charging you $50. So that's something to think about. And New Hampshire, they're charging you $7 for online transactions. New Jersey, they're charging you $25. But fees for LLCs and LLPs are either $50 or $100, depending on whether you choose short form or long certificates. In New Mexico, corporations are eligible to receive a certificate of good standing, while LLC may request certificates of good standing and status. So both are available through the Secretary of State's websites, and the fees are $25 for LLCs, $50 for profit corporations, and $10 for non-profit corporations. In New York, actually, the processing fee is a flat $25 for standard processing, with an additional $25 expedited fee if you need it within 24 hours. So they can actually provide that, not a problem. You also have North Carolina, they're charging you $15, so that's good to know. We love that. North Dakota, $20. Ohio, actually $25. Oklahoma, you have $20. Oregon, you have $10. Pennsylvania, you have $40. Rhode Island, they're charging you $20. South Carolina, they're charging you $10. South Dakota, they're charging you $35. In Tennessee, you have you have to pay $20. Texas, $15. Utah, $12. Vermont, they're charging you $25. In Virginia, they actually will give you the documents real fast, and you have to pay $6. In Washington State, $20. But there is actually an additional $50 fee if you want the documents real fast. In DC, they're charging you $50. In West Virginia, they're charging you $10. In Wisconsin, they're charging you $10. And in Wyoming, they're charging you they're charging you nothing. So that's just really cool. And but the thing with Wyoming is you have to contact the authorities real fast. So one thing for sure, make sure your good standing certificate is valid for your specific use case, right? Because certificates of good standing usually have expiration dates, which can vary by states and purpose. For example, one lender might want to see a certificate that's no older than 60 days, while another might be fine with one that's just up to a year old. In many cases, certificates are valid for up to 90 days, so you can check with the place requesting the certificate to see if yours is valid. And if you want to do business in a state you are not registered in, you may need to register in that state as a foreign entity and provide a certificate of good standing from your home state. And the cool thing is that different states may require that your certificate be dated within a certain amount of time. So be sure your certificate is valid before filing with that state, and that will help you a lot. Okay. And let me give you a few requirements here. So less than 30 days old. So Arkansas, Michigan, New Jersey, New Mexico, South Carolina, and Vermont. Less than 60 days old. Arizona, Hawaii, Illinois for LLCs. Indiana, Maryland, Massachusetts, Missouri, Nebraska, New Hampshire, Oklahoma, Oregon, Rhode Island, Tennessee, Washington, Wisconsin for corporations, and Wyoming. Less than 90 days old. So we're speaking here about what? Connecticut, Florida, Georgia, Idaho, Iowa. You have Kansas, Louisiana, Maine, Mississippi for corporations, Nevada for corporations, North Dakota, Ohio, South Dakota, Utah, and Washington, D.C. And less than 6 months old, you have California, Delaware, and North Carolina. And less than a year old, you have New York, Virginia, and West Virginia. And this is kind of important to think about. And there are some places that do not require a certificate. So, for instance, now there are some states that do not require a certificate of standing at all. I mean that's really good. So you have Alaska, for instance. You have Alabama, Colorado. You have Kentucky. You have Minnesota, Montana, Nevada for LLCs. So they don't ask for a certificate of good standing. You have Pennsylvania, Texas, and Wisconsin for LLCs. You have so that's really good. Now, one thing for sure, everything I'm telling you into this conversation actually this reflects the requirements as published as of the date of this show, but this can change. Okay. Now, how long would you have to what would you have to wait for your letter of good standing to arrive? Well, it really depends. If you are already in good standing, you may be able to download it right away after paying for it, depending on your state. If you want your state to mail you a copy, you may have to wait a week or two. So it is what it is. Remember, if you're not currently in good standing, you'll need to fix that before requesting a letter. That's for sure. Let me give you a few considerations before we close to this conversation. So I spoke to you about how to get a certificate of good standing in your state. And it's important to really understand that a certificate of good standing is not required to operate a business, but a letter of good standing may be required for taking certain actions, and such as selling your business or applying for a loan. So anytime you have to engage in some kinds of contractual initiatives, you may need a certificate of good standing. And the certificates can be valid for 1 month all the way to 1 year. It really depends. So check with your state to confirm how long your certificate is valid. And it's important actually to maintain a good standing when you think about it, because maintaining good standing is incredibly relevant to a business, even if you won't need a certificate anytime soon. Remaining in compliance helps you preserve your limited liability and ensures that you will not be fined by the states. And so the one thing for sure, not all business need to have a certificate of good standing, right? The rules vary by state, but in many of them, LLCs, partnerships, LPs, LLPs, and LLPs all need to have them. However, sole proprietorships do not. And please do not actually confuse a certificate of good standing with an article of organization. Okay. And so basically known by different names in different states, such as certificate of formation or certificate of organization. An article of organization is a document specific to LLCs that outlines the initial statements necessary for forming an LLC in most U.S. states. And those documents, which usually must be filed with your state's Secretary of State, must include essential information like your business name and address, the purpose of your business, how the business will be managed, contact information for the LLC's registered agent, and also, if known, the expected duration of the LLC. So this is actually good to think about, especially if you're thinking about the long run. So while certificates of good standing are not required for business owners, you may need one if you ever want to compete for a government contract, apply for a business loan, get business insurance, or grow your company in another way. And the good news is that getting a certificate is usually quick and cheap. So just reach out to your state's business filing agency for a request form to begin the process today. So in conclusion to this conversation, I spoke to you about how to get a certificate of good standing in your state. So I gave you the strategy. Then we talked about the considerations and now the conclusion. Thank you so much. God bless you. I'll see you next time. Until then, remember, stay marvelous.